This video is going to cover the topics of median and range. So there's two topics. Be sure the date in both topics are at the top of your page. Since the topic has two parts, the essential question is what is median and what is range? And of course, we always want to know what they tell us. In statistics, when we're looking at data, we often use measures of center to help us make sense of what we're looking at. We like to use measures of center to tell us what is typical or average. And one way to do that is with the median. The median is actually used quite a bit, right? And it's used when, especially when there's sort of skewed data. If there are outliers or values that are sort of far away from all of the others, the median can actually be the best way to represent a typical result. After all, if we're trying to figure out what's sort of typical and we have one person or one piece of data that's way outside everybody else's, if we include that in a mean, for example, it's going to really impact the mean and it won't give a full picture or tell the full story. So the median is used often when there's skewed data or when there are outliers. We'll do our first one here with this set of data, and these are the minimum wages in 7 US states. And I put the states there just for information there. But we're going to find the median, and we'll need to first put these numbers in order from least to greatest. Once you have them in order from least to greatest, you can actually just sort of mark off as you go until you have your middle number. So I know that these two are my edges, right? My lowest and highest. Here's the next pair of lowest and highest. Here's the third pair of lowest and highest, which means this is left by itself in the middle. The median of these data points is $12, which happens to be Oregon, $12 there. We'll look at the median again here with the points scored by Damian Lillard in the last 6 games of the regular season of 2020. And so I have them listed here in the order in which they occurred, but we want to find the median, so we need to reorder these from least to greatest. And once they're in order from least to greatest, we can go ahead and pair off our smallest and largest numbers until we're left with 1 in the center. But you might notice right now that there is not 1 in the center, right? There are these 2 left in the middle here. But that doesn't mean there's a median. There is still a median. The median happens to be what's in between 30 and 34. And you might look at that and say, oh, I know already, that's 32, right? So our median is 32 points for Damian Lillard. But if you did not know that, there's another option. And that is that you can add up the 2 remaining numbers and divide by 2. So you could have done 30 plus 34 equals 64, and then 64 cut in half will give you that 32, right? So if you ever see 2 numbers and you're not sure what's in between, you can use that process. We can actually also find the median on a dot plot or a line plot. So I just have some numbers here on a line plot to demonstrate this. So you can actually say, well, this is my highest value and my lowest value, right? Those X's represent a 2 and a 6. Here's another 2 and a 5, my highest and lowest. Here's a highest and lowest until you just have 1 remaining. The median of this would be 3. So just know that you can also see this in dot and line plots as well, although we don't see it quite as often. When we look at statistical data, we also want to know the range oftentimes, and the range provides us information on how far apart pieces of information are. So it tells us the spread between the highest and the lowest data point. The data we're looking at for this example is the money that's spent on each of you all, each student per school year. And I used the same 7 states that I used in the previous example. So this tells us how much money is spent, and we're going to look at the range. So to do that, we need to identify the highest and the lowest. And so I'm just going to kind of scan through my list and circle or identify the lowest value. And that looks like that is in Idaho right here. And the highest value looks like it is here coming from New York, right? So we're going to subtract the lowest value from the highest value. So I'm going to take my 25,139 and subtract the value from Idaho, 7,895. And when we do that, we get, I think, $17,244. So that means there's a difference of $17,244 between these two states. That's how much more New York is spending versus Idaho. And that's a pretty big difference, right? So sometimes the range can really point out how different things are in different places or for different people or for different data points. And just like the median, the range can also be identified on a line plot or dot plot as well, right? You just need to look for the number that has, the highest number that has data. So in this case, we have an 11, and the lowest number that has data, which in this case is a 5, and you would say, oh, well, the highest was 11 minus the lowest was 5. The range is 6. So you can see a line plot is a nice quick way actually to find the range. It's really easy to see the highest and the lowest numbers on your number line that are being used and find your range that way. We will end with a chance for you to show your own thinking, and I want you this time to tell us the median of this data and the range. So both of these things, I want you to use the data here in this random data set of numbers and tell the median and the range, and look at your notes to make sure you remember which one's which and how to calculate each of them. And remember, the essential questions of this video were what are median and what are range. So be sure to use your notes as needed, and of course we will talk about this in class.